The hot stove is getting even hotter as the Reds are linked to another outfielder. We're going to tell you who on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Reds, every single day, and we thank you for helping us make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Hello, my name is Jeff. His name is Steve, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We've been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons, bringing you takes and info about the Cincinnati Reds every single day like nobody else can. On today's show, well, in a little bit, we are going to get into what Terry Francona had to say about bounce backs or breakouts, depending on how you look at it, for Spencer Steer and Matt McLain in 2026. He was talking with some media folks, and he had lots of good things to say about that. We'll get into that later on. In just a few minutes, we're going to tell you why Terry Francona really wants to unlock the full potential of the Reds starting rotation. But we will begin with the hot stove because it's cold outside, Steve. I don't know. I'm sure where you are it's not. But up here in Ohio, the ground's frozen and ready for this winter weather that's coming. But the hot stove is keeping us warm. The Cincinnati Reds linked to a potential center fielder. This is going to be interesting. That's all coming up on today's episode. This is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, you can bet your favorite NFL games live. Just download the FanDuel app and get in on the action all the rest of the NFL season. All right, Steve, the Reds have been linked to Houston Astros center fielder Jake Meyers. This was according to Brian McTaggart from MLB.com, said that the Astros are looking to move their center fielder and are looking for starting pitching, and that the Reds are among the teams interested. There was a list of other teams that included the Red Sox and included the Dodgers and things like that, people who are looking to acquire Jake Meyers to their lineup. Honestly, though, not really that into this rumor here with Jake Meyers because I kind of feel like he's just more of the same of what the Reds have already.
You know, if they're going to go make a move, it needs to be a move for somebody that's exciting. It needs to be for somebody that's going to move the needle in one way or another. And just a quick glance at Meyers' stats and, might as well be Will Myers that you're bringing in here because that's the similar type of production that you're going to get from
glove,
this guy.
But I see what you're saying.
Better glove, but at least in the lineups, from a lineup standpoint, we're talking about a guy who hasn't cracked 100 in his OPS plus in a minute. So this is not a player that's going to come in here and move the needle for the Reds. Reclamation project, somebody maybe you can see, but that's the narrative that we want the Reds to move away from. That's what they've always done. It's like, let's see if we can fix this guy. Let's see if we can squeeze something out of this guy. Let's see if he can come in here and earn that next contract for himself kind of guy. I don't want that guy, Jeff. And especially I don't want to trade for that guy and give something up to get that guy. This is a non-starter for me. And I know it's refreshing for a minute to just take a step back from the Kyle Schwarber of it all and look at other possibilities and other pieces. But this is not the answer. This is clearly like the same old Jell-O mold that the Reds have used for season after season after season. This type of player, this type of deal. I don't want Nick Krall to spend any time on this at all.
No, even if this is also ran with Kyle Schwarber or with another big move, I'm not interested because Jake Meyers is a guy who last year was defensively proficient. He had 9 outs above average, according to Baseball Savant, playing center field. He also had positive 5 defensive runs saved playing center field last year. So good glove. But last season, he had a 105 OPS plus. That is 15% better than his career number in OPS plus. And we talk about that number a lot. Just in case you're unfamiliar, OPS plus is an all-encompassing number that talks about a hitter's ability with 100 being league average. So he was 5% above league average. That is the best season he's ever had at the plate. And oh, by the way, he slugged 373 and his career slugging percentage is 371. So that is who he is. He's a light hitting, glove first center fielder. Steve, when I look around the diamond, I think I can use that moniker on a lot of different players on this Reds team. So if we're going to get another guy, I think the question has to be, do they realize they need to hit? Because as of right now, it just looks like we're getting guys who can catch, and all of them just pick up a bat and hope that they swing it in the direction of where the ball is.
Yeah, this is not the answer. And you don't trade for a guy coming off of his outlier year that's his best year, right? Like that's not the answer. When you go and get a guy, you have to look at who he's shown you to be over a period of time. And Meyers has shown to be not the answer the Reds are looking for. You're right. They absolutely have to get guys that are going to upgrade this lineup, that are going to be able to hit for a little power. They're going to be able to score some runs. They're going to be able to contribute offensively. For the love of God, can we get a couple guys in here that can protect Ellie and help this lineup be a little bit stronger? Because that's really what's missing. There was someone had posted an article at a national level quoting Terry Francona, and I wish I had grabbed it, so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but it was basically Tito talking about the things that Ellie needed to add and evolve to his game, and I was thinking, that's all well and good, but what they really need to add to evolve Ellie's game is somebody hitting behind him so he can keep thinking strikes.
Yeah, needs some help. Needs a little bit of help in here. And quite frankly, like if I'm looking at this, like I was trying to think of a comparison, and you and I were talking in prep, like I thought, kind of feels like Gavin Lux, but with a better glove, and he can actually play the outfield. But I think that's the incorrect comparison. I think the correct comparison is he is TJ Friedl with less power and a little bit better glove. Like, I mean, he's better defensively, but he doesn't have as much power as TJ Friedl. So the argument for acquiring a guy like this is you get him and you move TJ Friedl left field. Okay, I don't know that you've improved your outfield. Like you have defensively, but you haven't offensively. And I would much rather focus on the lineup side of things. And I think that they could do that simply just by going and adding Miguel Andújar. If it's also with somebody, or if it's just going and getting Miguel Andújar, like whether it's in a vacuum or part of an offseason plan, I would much rather have Miguel Andújar than Jake Meyers. And all Miguel Andújar would cost would be money.
And Miguel Andújar has proven that he can hit at Great American Ballpark. We have a good body of work from Andújar to see how he does. His splits say that he could be an everyday player. His splits say that he's not necessarily a platoon guy. And I think that's what the Reds need, just even from an insurance policy standpoint, Jeff. Even if you signed Miguel Andújar, bringing him in here saying, okay, he's going to hit against lefties, but if something goes wonky, somebody nicks a hamstring, somebody gets banged up, somebody runs into a wall, you don't have to go, okay, how are we going to fill out this platoon now? Because Andújar gives you enough quality at bats against the right-handed and the left-handed pitching to just run him out there every day until you get your platoon back. So I think Andújar specifically answers a couple problems that the Reds have. It solves those problems and lets them focus on other areas. Andújar would be a much better signing than going out and trading for a guy. And you're right, Andújar only cost money. We already gave up something to get Andújar. Let's just sign him and bring him back.
I think it's a little bit funny too that like we're talking about trade rumors, and this was something that we had talked about early on in the offseason. Like it felt like outside of signing a guy like Kyle Schwarber, the Reds were going to need to look at the trade market to really make their big impact on their lineup. Somehow they're still looking in the trade market and finding the wrong things. Like this is not that. This is not what we're talking about, and this is not what anybody's talking about. Like Jake Meyers.
And to be fair, we have not heard Nick Krall talk about Meyers. We have not heard that happen. This is coming from reports, and this could just very well be
somebody overheard
an agent leaking some information, trying to jack up a price. It could be the Astros leaking some information to try and jack up the price. There's a lot of reasons why this could be coming out the way that it is, and none of them involve Nick Krall. Nick Krall, may not have talked to anybody about Meyers. We don't know, but the fact that they're reporting on it, somebody's leaking this information, and the Reds need to take a big step back away from this, Jeff. I'm definitely not on board with this one, but guess what? Terry Francona has been talking, Jeff Carr. He has been talking at the winter meetings. He's done lots of interviews. He's talked to lots of people, and he was questioned about the Reds starting pitching and what he expects from them in the 2026 season. We're going to get into that coming up next.
There's no better way to enjoy a football game than to bet it live with FanDuel. And all you have to do is check out all the different lines that they have, because as the game goes along, point spreads change, totals change, money lines change, even player prop bets change. And FanDuel is all over it. If you want to get in live on the action in every single football game for the rest of the season and even in the playoffs too, FanDuel has you covered. Like right now, the line for the Bengals, they're 2.5-point home dogs to the Ravens this Sunday. I don't know about that one, because it kind of feels like the Ravens are frauds. But the question will be, are the Bengals still in this? I think Joe Burrow will still keep them in this, but 2.5-point dogs is interesting at home. The live lines are going to be crazy. Got to check it all out over on FanDuel. Download that FanDuel app today and get in on all of the live betting fun.
Thank you for making Locked On Reds your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in all of the land. Thanks for helping get us there. You already live your team every day. Now you can take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Reds with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonreds.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Jeff, Tito, he has been a talking, and we all know that Tito is fun in interviews sometimes. We've experienced that. But Tito's been saying a lot of things. He's been doing a lot of interviews with a lot of people out at the winter meetings. And he was asked specifically about the starting pitching and whether or not, he wanted to get the starting pitchers to a point where they were pitching deeper and deeper and deeper into games. And Terry had a lot of things to say about why they haven't been doing that, why the numbers look like they do. And you have an article out over at SI talking about this very thing, basically spinning off of those questions that Terry Francona was asked. And it revealed a lot of interesting information about this Reds pitching staff and really painted a picture of a clear need for healthy seasons from a majority of the Red starters and an ability for them to push at least into the 7th inning, because it has a huge impact on the win column when they do.
Yeah, I think Terry Francona is on to something here with his desire to grow this even more. He was asked poignantly on MLB Network, about pitchers going 6 2/3 and deeper into the ball games. I thought it was interesting that the question didn't say 7 innings or deeper into the ball games, whatever. The question was, can you get starting pitchers deeper into the ball games, and is that something that you want to do? Terry Francona responded by saying, I not only agree with what you're saying, but I respect it. I think with our group, you try to let them grow into that. We have some guys like Lodolo, Abbott, even Hunter Greene that haven't made it through a full season yet. So you're kind of balancing that. But I do not want our guys looking into the dugout after the 5th inning. I'd rather them be mad at me for taking them out of the game before they because they wanted to stay in. Steve, I love hearing this. This was actually something that he had said in so many words. It was different wording. But he said something like this directly after he was hired by the Reds last year, and we were getting kind of pumped up about this. So I looked a little bit deeper into it. I'm like, this isn't a new thought from Terry Francona. I think this is like level 2 of his thought. He wants to push this a little bit more with this rotation because they're talented enough to do it. Steve, this stat that I looked at last year, and basically you just had to go through because there's no statistic that just puts this on a piece of paper for you on Baseball Reference or Fangraphs or something. So you just got to go through the game logs and mark it all down. The Reds had 24 starts of 7 innings or more from their starting pitchers last year. The Reds were 21-3 in those games. Notice there has nothing to do with the lineup in this. This is all about the starting pitching now. And the fact that I think this Reds starting pitching staff was that good this year, will only be better this year, has the kind of talent that you can trust Terry Francona to push this a little bit further. This makes me really excited to see that this is his thought process, even here just on December, early December in the winter meetings.
There's a couple things with this. This is a natural continuation of what Terry Francona tried to do the minute he got to Cincinnati. If I can harken you back to Tito's first appearance out in Goodyear in spring training, one of the first things he said was he wanted these starting pitchers to be ready to go on opening day to throw 100 pitches. He wanted them to be ready pitch a full complete game if it went that way. He didn't want them to be continuing to build once the big league club broke camp and went on to Cincinnati. So this is the next evolution. They need to be able to pitch deeper into games. They need to be able to pitch more innings. And the key to this all is they need to be healthy and available. They need to want the ball. They need to be on the mound. So Tito's right. None of these starting pitchers have been able to give a true full season. Now, Andrew Abbott is probably the most likely to get you a full season first. He's been the healthiest of the bunch. If you're talking Lodolo and Greene and Abbott. Now, we expect Brady Singer to go out there and make his starts. We expect Andrew Abbott's going to go out there and make his starts. The key to this whole thing is Hunter Greene and Nick Lodolo. They need to get 25 or more starts in this season, uninterrupted, pitching deeper into games. And when you do that, it helps the bullpen. I know this is a wild concept, Jeff, but if you only pitch your best pitchers, so your good starters and your back end of the bullpen guys in games, you win a lot of games. You win 21 out of 24 games because the B group is not seeing the field, Jeff. The B part of the bullpen is down there blowing bubbles in the Reds bullpen. You don't need them, and that's how you win ball games. Also, just for clarity's sake, I want to say for the YouTube viewers, the quote graphic there that was up on the screen, that was a quote from Terry Francona. It's attributed to Nick Krall, but that is actually Terry Francona talking there.
Yeah, I forgot to fix my graphic there. My bad. But yeah, I love this for multiple different reasons. I mean, number one, we hate bullpen games. I get it. That's a way of baseball when you get into the postseason and all that other stuff. Don't love it during the regular season at all. But the Reds have the talent to really make this happen. And Steve, I think it's interesting because you said something that I believe most Reds fans hold to be true. And I think it's true with Hunter Greene for sure. But what was the difference in games started by Andrew Abbott and games started by Nick Lodolo?
Number of games?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking me without it in front of me? I would say Abbott started 5 to 7 more games than Nick Lodolo.
He started one more game.
Really?
Nick Lodolo had 28 starts last year, and his one relief appearance that we were all very perplexed by in Milwaukee gave him 29 games. Actually pitched the same number of games. It's just Nick Lodolo came in as a relief appearance in that one game. But yeah, Andrew Abbott had 29 starts. Nick Lodolo had 28. Now, to your point, Andrew Abbott had the most number of starts of 7 innings or more of any Reds starter last year. He had 7, and the Reds were 6-1 in those games. But ultimately, like, this is a statistic that we talked a lot about some different things last year where it's like, okay, this is an indicator. If you see this happen during a game, feel good about it. You know, like if the Reds got the 4 runs, feel good about it, or things like that. If a Reds starting pitcher gets, what is that, 21 outs, 7 times 3? Yeah, okay, math. 20. If a Reds starting pitcher gets 21 outs in a game, feel good about that game because the Reds are really, really good in this instance. And I think they've got 3 guys. Like, as long as Hunter Greene stays healthy, Abbott, Lodolo, Greene, I would expect that 7 starts of 7 innings or more would be the floor for each one of those guys.
Do you feel like Brady Singer could give you some cushion there as well? I think how many 7 innings? He had 4 or 5 somewhere in that neighborhood.
He had 4. I was looking at it the other day. I should have memorized it. Forgot to memorize it. But yeah, he definitely went deep into some. Yeah, or no, I'm sorry. He had 3. He had 3 starts of 7 innings or more. 2 of them were 7 innings. 1 was 7 1/3.
So they get you 24, 25 starts of 7 or more. That's a big relief to this bullpen.
And that's before you talk about Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder.
Right.
Like, those guys could pop off too.
That really helps this bullpen. And then from a back end of the bullpen standpoint, you don't need 3. You don't need all 3 of your good arms in the back of the bullpen to cover those days. You can use 1 or 2. That's going to keep Santillan. That's going to keep Graham Ashcraft, and that's going to keep Emilio Pagan fresher longer. It's going to allow them to be better in September and hopefully on into October because they're not having to pitch, I don't know, 80 games like Tony Santillan pitched.
That's the one thing too, because like we talk about the bullpen, and I talk about the fact that I'm very bullish on the bullpen right now, but at the same time, I admit that I am worried about guys like that threw that many games. And if they were to go back and get a Scott Barlow or something like that, he threw a lot of games too. It's not as if you're bringing back a guy that I mean, I think that there's a difference between relief pitchers who threw a lot for their first time and relief pitchers who threw a lot throughout their career, which is the difference between Scott Barlow and Tony Santillan. But at the same time, like, relief pitching is a very fickle thing. And even when you're talking about on a per game basis, I don't care how good your relief pitcher is. Some guys have bad days. Josh Hader has had his bad days, and the Reds have been on the receiving end of a lot of those where they get to beat up on Josh Hader a little bit. But again, that's not very often because he's one of the best relievers in baseball. But there's variables that you add into a potential win by going to the bullpen each time. Like, each time you kind of roll the dice a little bit. We used to joke about when the Reds were really bad, we joked about the bullpen roulette, right? Like, they're going and getting guys like Heath Hembree, and they're going and getting guys like Hunter Strickland and stuff like that. They're not doing that anymore, but even still, there is a little bit of gamble every time you go to the bullpen. So the more that your starting pitchers pitch, the deeper they go into the game, the less you have to worry.
Let's do a way too early in the offseason prediction. Let's do this, Jeff. Who is going to give you more starts of 7 innings or more in 2026? Nick Lodolo or Hunter Greene? Who is the next guy to make that evolution and catch up with Andrew Abbott? That's what I'm asking.
I think it's Nick Lodolo because I think he stays healthier.
All right. I think it's Hunter Greene because I believe that man is going to pitch with a chip on his shoulder this year. And I think it's going to be fun to watch Hunter Greene.
And it's because of what I just said. There's a lot of people that are saying what I just said, that they don't know that Hunter Greene can be healthy. And I don't know that Hunter Greene can be healthy for an entire year. But my goodness, if he is healthy for an entire year, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I know something else is going to be fun to watch, Steve, because Terry Francona was talking with a lot of people on Monday for the winter meetings and different shows and talking to reporters and all this other stuff. And he had a lot of good stuff to say about Spencer Steer and Matt McLain and why he thinks both those guys are going to have some good years in 2026. I love Game Time. I use Game Time all the time, whether I'm going to a game tonight or I'm going to a game 6 months from now. Game Time has you covered because they've got great last-minute deals, and they show you the all-in pricing up front before you ever add the ticket to your cart. Or if you're tracking an event like, say, opening day, then you can set price alerts for it, and they will alert you whenever prices drop so that you can take advantage of the best available prices. Plus, if you're going somewhere you've never been, they show you your view from your seat. Steve and I use this app all the time, especially during baseball season, but football season as well. I use it to go to Cyclones games during hockey season. Game Time is awesome. You've got to download Game Time today. Create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's Game Time and the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We encourage you to keep the conversation going with us after the show is over. You can follow me on X at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. You can follow Steve on X at Jeff or at Steve off at whatever. Wow. At S Offenbaker with 2 Fs. I was just thinking about the Fs.
Look, listen, you have screwed up the math twice now. Now you're messing up the names.
This is my first cup.
I don't know
right?
what the education
I needed another cup.
Northern, Southwestern Alabama taught you, but geez.
I needed another cup of coffee. Anyway, yeah, social media, we're on it, and we're talking about the Reds all the time. So we invite you to come talk with the Reds about us all the time there, too. All right, Steve, so Terry Francona was talking.
He just said you invited us to come talk with the Reds about us. Cool. Reds are going to be talking.
Which is why we're going to talk about what Terry Francona said, because Terry Francona did not trip over his words whenever he was talking about Spencer Steer and Matt McLain on Monday. He was talking to a lot of different folks. He was on Foul Territory. He was on MLB Network. He was talking to reporters, all different things. And he had a lot to say about the team. I mean, obviously, when you talk that much, you might as well talk about the team a little bit. But he was really bullish on Spencer Steer and Matt McLain. We'll begin with the Matt McLain of it all, because I think he is the most polarizing of these two. There's a lot of folks right now that have decided that they know that Matt McLain isn't a legitimate player. And Terry Francona wants to shut that down because he said, quote, "I know I was stubborn early on with him, probably referring to the fact that I think he batted second for like 2 months, and he really wasn't doing all that well batting second, but he was still batting second. I know I was stubborn with him early on. It's because I believed in him so much. I still do. There's a really good player there. I think a year removed from that shoulder surgery, I think we'll see that. That's basically what you and I have been saying all offseason.
Well, that's what I've been saying. You were team send him down for a while there, mister.
In June? Steve, it's December. Look at a calendar.
Let's not revisionist history that you were trying to send him to Louisville, sir. But I will say this. I have never, ever
send him
given
to
up
Louisville
hope.
in December.
I have never, ever given up hope on Matt McLain. I have never believed that he wasn't going to bounce back. And I know that shoulders are tricky. And I have remained steadfast in my support for Matt McLain. And I agree 100% with Terry Francona here. As the season progressed, it wasn't pretty at times. Matt McLain dug himself into a tremendous hole at the beginning of the year, and Terry acknowledges that he played a part in that, and I agree. They kept running him out there in the 2-hole, and they should have been a little bit more selective about what they did with him. But Matt McLain is going to be a major leaguer for a long time. Matt McLain is going to play some of the best infield defense that this Reds team has ever seen in its history. Now, he's not going to be the greatest. I'm not trying to make comparisons with other players. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, his body of work is going to show you a tremendous defender wherever he plays on this Reds infield. The hitting is going to come back. The shoulder is going to be tons better this season than it was to start last season. Who we saw play from Matt McLain last year is not who he is. This is going to be a true evaluation now this season. Will he start slow? We don't know. But I can guarantee you that he has been working hard all offseason to hit the ground running when this team reports to Goodyear in February. I'm not worried about Matt McLain at all. And if you watch his at-bats at the end of last season, he was hitting the ball hard. He was making good contact. He looked more comfortable in the box. He was hitting the ball at people a lot. He wasn't getting it to fall into the grass, but he looked a lot better. He looked a lot more comfortable. His swing looked a lot better. That's all going to carry over into 2026. I'm not worried about Matt McLain at all. You people that wanted to send him down, back off.
Well, and I think it's interesting. Whatever he did in June, if he can just tap into that, he's going to be all right. In the month of June, he had a 287 batting average with a 367 on base and 437 slugging. That's an 804 OPS. He didn't have an OPS above 655 in any other month. I don't know what he did in June. Maybe he started to get comfortable, and then maybe something else happened toward the end of the month, and he just fought through it for the rest of the year. That seems to be a pretty common theme with Reds players this past season, is that something happened to them, and yet they did not take time off. But Fangraphs is bullish on him. Terry Francona is bullish on him. A lot of people that have watched Matt McLain that are outside of us, because we love to be bullish on different players, but like outside of us, there's a lot of folks that are saying, dude, just don't count this guy out. So we're not going to. We're not going to at all. And then another guy that Terry Francona is saying, don't count him out. And I don't know that we did, but I think that we started to question our own evaluation of him, because I have once called Spencer Steer the mashed potatoes. I don't necessarily know that I think that's the case now, but there were at least some splits to make that seem as though that was the case. But Terry Francona is bullish on Spencer Steer really breaking out next year. He said that because, it was split up, that the fact that the first 3 weeks of the season, he really, really struggled. And then from then on, he looked more like the Spencer Steer that we know. And Terry Francona commented on that part, and he said, hopefully we have that guy from the get-go, because that's who Spencer Steer is. For the first 3 weeks of the season, Steve, just to split this up for everybody, he had a 390 OPS plus. It was horrible. It was an automatic out. Let's just call it what it was. But then for the rest of the season, for 131 games after that point, he had a 257 batting average, and his OPS was at 762. Now, you would like the OPS to be a little bit higher, but honestly, that's more what we expect. And for those 131 games, he had the 20 bombs, and he was hitting 257. Like, those are the numbers that we expect when we talk about Spencer Steer.
Yeah, just to be clear, that 390, Jeff, was OPS, not OPS plus. 36 OPS plus. I know you swapped your numbers, but 36 OPS plus. That's a big hole that he dug himself into. And I want to talk about what the similarities here are between Spencer Steer and Matt McLain, both starting the season with shoulders that were not right. In the case of Matt McLain, coming off the shoulder surgery, coming off of being a year away from baseball, shoulder not at full strength. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way his shoulder was at full strength when he started the season. And we know for a fact, because Spencer Steer told us so, that his shoulder was not right at the beginning of the season. In fact, the Reds were going to start him on the injured list coming out of Goodyear last season. But then other injuries happened, and they looked around the room and they were like, hey, Spencer, do you think you can go? And Spencer Steer, as he always does when this team asked him to do something, he said yes. So he was out there for the first month of the season playing with one wing, and it showed in his performance. And as that shoulder started to heal, so did Spencer Steer's statistics. And with both of those guys starting the season with shoulders that are intact, having had an offseason to get their work in, ready to come in to Goodyear in a top shape, they're both going to bounce, Jeff. We're going to get the Mr. Mashed Potato Spencer Steer back. We're going to get a Matt McLain back that's going to make everybody ooh and ah. Is it going to be the Matt McLain from the first year? No, I don't think so. We're going to be a little bit more realistic about what we expect from Matt McLain. But if you look at his projections, he's projecting to be better than a starter, tinkering with all-star level numbers. So I will take that in this year from Matt McLain as he continues to work back into it.
And one other thing on Spencer Steer, I think this is intriguing because as Sal Stewart really worked himself into first base playing time more and more in September, and Spencer Steer kind of moved around a little bit more, played a little bit more intermittently, did the super utility thing that he will be doing this year. Spencer Steer had a slash line of 255, 369, 509. Spencer Steer slugged 509 down the stretch as a super utility guy. I think that is his role. And we talked about the fact that they're wanting to get Sal Stewart time at first base. They're hoping to add somebody in the DH spot or something like that. That means that Spencer Steer needs to get a little bit creative with the positions that he plays. And we thought that, that's probably the big reason that they're making this decision. I think there's also a little bit of the fact that, like you mentioned, he likes to move around and he's probably just more comfortable playing multiple positions. And so I'm very excited to see what Spencer Steer has for us next year. But that'll be all for us here on today's episode of the Locked On Reds podcast. More about what's been going on at the winter meetings will be coming up on tomorrow's podcast. Make sure that you join us. We got a lot to talk about, when it comes to Rule 5, when it comes to draft lottery, all the different things that went down. We'll be all over it right here on the Locked On Reds podcast. And thanks for making us your first listen every single day and helping us make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. By the way, did Locked On Reds make your Spotify Wrapped? If they did, make sure that you post that and tag the Locked On Podcast Network national account. You'll get you'll get a code for a free month of the Locked On Reds Everydayer program. So make sure you tag the Locked On Podcast Network social media account in your Spotify Wrapped, so long as Locked On Reds was one of the top shows there. But thanks again for checking us out. Now make sure you go check out Sully over on Locked On MLB. He's got you covered. He had a fun reaction the other day about the Hall of Fame vote. I was on with him. That was an interesting conversation. Jeff Kent. Anyway, make sure you go check out Sully and the words that he has to say about that and the words that I said with him. That's all on Locked On MLB. Just like Locked On Reds, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. But as for Steve and myself, we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
Boy, you rumbled, bumbled, and stumbled all the way through that thing.
I look, I think it's death scrolling. I was death scrolling for days about Kyle Schwarber. That's what I'm going to blame the internet. I blame
you like 4 different times said things backwards. That was hilarious.